Well, welcome everybody. We are so proud to welcome Lisa Ryan, certified speaking professional and a double alumna of CSU. She has both her bachelor's and her MBA from CSU, so we're very pleased because we love being able to bring your fellow Vikings back to talk to you. She's an award-winning speaker and a best-selling author, and she's here today to talk to us about something that we could probably all use more of these days with the current conditions, and that's gratitude. If you have responses, she's going to have some questions for you. If you have responses or questions for her during this presentation, if you could use the chat function, Lisa will be watching it and Jordan and I will be watching it to help her out with that. I should also introduce Jordan. He's my counterpart in the Cleveland State Alumni Association, and we are so glad to have you all with us, and I will turn it over to Lisa.
All right, well, hello Cleveland State. It's really nice to be here, even though we're not live. Like we actually could have been on my birthday, which is when April 14th, which is when this program, the original program was. So it's still great to be here virtual and talking about gratitude strategies to get through these challenging times, because I know if you are like me, none of us thought that it was going to be 9 months later, we were still going to be talking about COVID and all these other things. And it kind of gets hard to find the good things. So before we get started, or as we get started, I want to find out where you're from originally. So I know, like for me, I am born and raised Cleveland, Ohio. I've lived in Cuyahoga County literally my whole life. And probably most of the folks here are from Cleveland, but I know that I've extended the invitation. So whether you're in Cleveland now or where you're from originally, go ahead and put that in the chat. I do this for a couple reasons. Number one, I want to see how chatty you are going to be today. And also it's nice to see who's in the house. So we have Michigan in the house, Cleveland, Worcester, Cleveland, born and raised in Cleveland, one of my kind of people. So we have Ohio, we have Cleveland, Pittsburgh, but living in Northeast Ohio since 2004. Cleveland originally, born and raised Cleveland. We are just so proud when we are born and raised in Cleveland, aren't we? I actually use that in all of my programs. It's like I've lived in Cuyahoga County my entire life by choice. Okay, Cincinnati, but living in Florida. So obviously much warmer than we are here today. So good, well, welcome. And this looks like it is going to be a chatty group. Hey, Teresa, how are you? So let's get started with that, because for the last 9 months, we've been talking about a lot of things, and one of them, adding all these new terms to our lexicon here, including, of course, social distancing. You know, sheltering in place, sheltering from home, which the whole sheltering in home was actually happening on my birthday. That was fun.
Lunch series talk for Cleveland State.
Okay, and I think we need to mute everybody, Jordan or Elizabeth. All right, so anyway, so with this, there comes a full range of emotions. So here's the second opportunity for you to participate, because I want to find out where you're at right now. In this time of COVID, there's a scale of 1 to 6, 1 being that you are angry. You're still angry, or maybe you're angry again, because it's not fair. We should be able to go out to restaurants and not wear masks everywhere we go, but please wear a mask. And you know, we should be able to see our families and get together for the holidays. So maybe you're still in that place of being stuck. You're at a 1. Maybe you're at a 2 where you're fearful, because like me, you're seeing a lot more of your friends and family who have gotten COVID. You're scared that you're going to get it yourself, because it's almost kind of like a Russian roulette. You can do everything possible and still kind of get it. So maybe you're in that fearful stage. Number 3, you're neutral. You are like, you know what, Lisa, I am an introvert, and this is this whole social distancing thing, this is one of the best things that ever happened to me. I am all over it. Maybe you're at a 4 where you're hopeful. You know, we started seeing that the first rounds of the vaccine are are in Cleveland right now, and some of our healthcare workers are starting to get that. So we're seeing that hopefulness coming in. Maybe you're in a number 5 where you're happy. You're like, Lisa, I've completely changed my business model. This is fantastic. I'm doing all my work from home. I don't have to get on planes anymore. I don't have to do anything. This is the best thing that could have happened. Or maybe you're in a number 6 where you're just happy that there's beer. So on a scale of 1 to 6, go ahead and put that in the chat, because I want to see where you're at. Okay, we have a 1, 2, 4, and 5. 1, 2, 4, 5, and 6. 3, a half. Ooh, 5, 2, 3, 4. I'm still working full time. Okay, we have some 3s. You know what? And we see that, and it's a really wide range of where everybody is right now. You know, at the beginning when I asked this question, I saw a lot of 1s and 2s. And then people started going into, I was seeing primarily 4s and some 5s. And now, because of the extent that this has been going on, we're seeing the numbers coming back. So 4 and 6, okay, I always have that too. But it's important to know that wherever you're at with this, we need to come to an understanding that people may be at different levels, because you don't know what people are experiencing. And we still want to find out ways that we can find the good, even amidst everything that we're going through. And what we're missing right now really is just that basic human connection. I'm a hugger, okay? Maybe you are too. As a matter of fact, go ahead, and I just want to see if you are a hugger, go ahead and put yes right now in the chat, because that's the one thing that we're missing. Oh yeah, here come all the yups coming through. I think that's one of the most difficult things, because, you know, randomly hugging strangers, well, I did learn to ask permission after a while, but now you're afraid even to hug the people that you love, and we're missing that connection. I had my first live event where I spoke to the Massillon Chamber in October already. That was my first live event since March. And being a networking event, people came up and wanted to shake your hands, and I wasn't sure even how to work with that. And when I politely declined and said, I'm not shaking hands right now, which is like killing me, but they got it and it was okay. But one of the things that I'm missing the most is, you know, my dad. Last Halloween, this was me and my dad. He has been in assisted living for 2 years. They had a big Halloween party for all the residents. They had trick-or-treating. All the residents were giving candy, and they probably had 100 kids going from room to room. My father was all over it. And then March 14th, they shut down everything. And I hadn't seen my dad for months. I can go to the glass and I can yell at him behind the glass. And they also did some things where they kept social distancing. But my dad's 79th birthday was in June. And I told the nurse manager there, I said, you know what? I need to hug my dad on his birthday. I don't know how you're going to make this happen, but we need to make this happen. So how can we do this? So what they did is, on his birthday, after all the other residents went back to their rooms after lunch, they brought my dad outside. And I was actually I had borrowed a hazmat suit, an N95 mask, and gloves. And on my dad's birthday, I got to hug him. Now, I actually have a little video of it that, unfortunately, with this, I can't show, but it's just missing that. Now, I have not asked the healthcare workers since then to be able to hug him again, because I know what an exception they made for me. So if at any time you are with your loved ones and you have that opportunity and it's safe, take advantage of that. When it comes to gratitude, it's not just a good idea. Gratitude really is essential to life, and especially with what we're going through right now, of looking at that. Now, a little bit about my background. Again, I'm born and raised Cleveland, Ohio. I have never lived outside Cuyahoga County. My husband, Scott, has lived in both Summit and Cuyahoga County, so obviously a man of the world. In my family, there was no going to college. You know, we just weren't expected to do it. I grew up in Maple Heights, and that wasn't part of the plan. And so I decided in my early 20s that I needed to go back to college. So I was actually on what they call the 14-year plan, where I had the first 8 years were getting my associate degree, because of course I was working full time. I took a quarter off to get married the first time and didn't go back for 4 years. But I got that associate's degree, and then I went to Cleveland State, still working working all day, going to school at night. I went to school Tuesdays and Thursdays from 6 to 8 and 8 to 10. Why? Because Dynasty was on Wednesdays and I had my priorities. But as far as my career, I spent the first part of it as an executive recruiter, one of the few people on the planet who can say they sold their mother. Now, mom hated that job, but I told her, Mom, you've got to stay there at least 2.5 years, or I'm sorry, 90 days, 90 days, because I have a guarantee and I can't afford to give back the commission I made on you. Thankfully, she was there for 2.5 years. After that, I went into industrial sales, spending 7 years in the welding industry, which is still my favorite job of all time. And yes, I do weld. I've gotten to do really cool things in Cleveland, for example, going in the salt mines. So imagine my Cleveland people going down a mile down Lake Erie and 4 miles out. Now, what you don't want to do is go with the new guy, because we got lost, which is kind of scary when they give you this little metal tag with a number on it that I found out was your remains identification tag. But as you can see, I made it out, but I absolutely love Cleveland. So how did all this start with gratitude? Well, in 2009, I went on a fire walk. And yes, it actually does look like this. So go ahead and in the chat, if you are a fire walker, let's see if there's anybody in my crowd today who has actually walked on fire. Now, I did this in 2009. Nope. Okay. Nope. I have all the nopes coming up. The funny part about that is that the 2009 fire walk wasn't my first one. I did my first one in 1989 when I was 6, just in case you're doing the math. The first one was powerful because literally when you walk on fire, you're like, oh, I've walked on fire, I can do anything. But it was the second one that was life-changing, because as my friends and I were driving back from Chicago, we were pretty jacked up. You might actually say we were fired up. We also knew that things would go right back to where we were before unless we took action. So one of my friends said, well, why don't we open up a Facebook thread? And that's what we did. And we shared, things we learned, experiences that we had, people we met. And one of my friends said, well, why don't we write down 3 things that we're grateful for? Okay, did that every day, held each other accountable. And it was that practice that changed everything. We started sharing our gratitudes, and I was in medical sales at the time, and customers that I hadn't talked to for months were calling me. Hey, Lisa, can you come in and sell me some stuff? I'll be right there. There were 2 large facilities I'd been calling on for almost 5 years that seemed to close effortlessly. I noticed the difference from my husband, who was becoming more verbally appreciative. It certainly wasn't because I was keeping the kitchen any cleaner. All of these things were changing, but the only thing I had changed was this practice of gratitude. So that's really where it all started. I started doing research, attending programs, reading books, reading articles. And one of the very first books that I read was called Thanks by Dr. Robert Emmons. He's a PhD professor out at Berkeley. And he took a random group of students, divided them into 3 groups. And what he had is them write down, like the first group, he had them write down the things they were grateful for. The second group, all the troubles, all the hassles, all the things that bugged them. Third group simply recorded the day's events. They were the control group. So the gratitude group he found were 25% happier. Now you might be saying, Lisa, how do you know they were actually 25% happier? And it's because when Dr. Emmons presented his findings, he did so in a pie chart. And you know that pie makes everybody happy, especially around the holidays. No, just kidding. For about 10 weeks before the study, he had them journal things, their headaches, backaches, relationships, stress levels, because he wanted to separate the chronically happy people from, let's just call them the chronically crabby people. And he noticed that 25% increase. The gratitude group complained less often. Wouldn't that be nice? They exercised an hour and a half more per week than the other two groups. They had fewer physical ailments. So can you think of a better practice right now when we're concerned about our immune system than something as easy as taking care of yourself by using gratitude strategies? These people were more happy, joyful, enthusiastic. And then Dr. Emmons interviewed the people from the gratitude group to see if they noticed any difference, and they did. They actually found that they were more emotionally available. They were nicer to be around. So I did my own research. Basically, I posted a question on LinkedIn, and the question was, how do you incorporate gratitude and appreciation into your business? Okay, innocent question, and I expected the standard vanilla answers for that question. No. The very first response that I received, and I received lots of them, said, you don't need to incorporate gratitude and appreciation into your business because people are just going to take advantage of you anyway. I'm like, where did that come from? Because I had no idea what to do with it. So I emailed her back. I said, I'm like really sorry that you feel that way. She said, that's okay, big girl now, moving on. Now, how did I know that she was screaming at me like that? Well, because she had replied in all caps. So again, I just didn't know what to do with this. And I'm a glutton for punishment, wanted to figure out the rest of the story. So I emailed her one more time and I said, you know, why don't you try my 30-day gratitude challenge? And for the next 30 days, simply write down 3 to 5 things a day that you're grateful for and let me know how it goes. She emailed me back, this time in lower case. Thank you so much for being so positive. I'll do that right away. I'm like, who are you and what did you do with that grouchy girl? So sure enough, a month goes by and I emailed her. I said, so how's things going? She said, actually, it's kind of weird. She said, I haven't been feeling that much different, but recently when I went on vacation and I was around some friends and family I hadn't seen for a while, they noticed the difference. It doesn't matter if you believe any of the stuff when it comes to gratitude. If you walk out of here with one idea, one action that you'll take as a result of the 1 hour that you are donating today to get this information. And in the holiday season, you know, a lot of times we're focused on gratitude, we're focused on appreciation, and then the new year starts and it slaps us upside the head and everything goes out the window. So these are strategies to use all year long. So when it comes to these strategies, I like to refer to this as my show talk. It's showtime because we look at the 4 aspects of that. That first of all, it's the self. How does gratitude change your perspective? Then we'll take a look at the health benefits. Our relationship with others is the O. And then finally, we'll take it to the W, which is wealth or workplace. So when it comes to yourself, your perspective, how does that change? When it comes to the studies that have been done on gratitude, it literally rewires your brain. That's the good news. Now, I've been keeping a gratitude journal pretty consistently since 2009. And I know that I look at things differently. This is not to say that bad things don't happen to me anymore, but it gives the opportunity to say, okay, well, this happened. What's something good that I can look at as a result of that? So how do you do it, particularly when you're stuck? Well, there's 3 main practices that I like to share, and you can use one of them, you can use all 3 of them. The first one is the morning gratitude journal. I remember I was speaking at one of my programs and this woman kind of got in my face. She was like, what do I have to give up to have one more thing to add to my already full plate? I'm like, breath, that's all good, breathe. But he said, I don't know, you have to give up maybe a minute or two of sleep. This is not something that you're doing the artist page, artist way pages where you're just journaling for hours at a time. It's waking up in the morning and writing down 5 sentences, starting with, I am grateful for. And people will say, well, do I have to write it down? Because, I'm grateful all the time. Well, if you think about it, when you're writing things down, you're feeling the pen in your hand, you're hearing the words, you're feeling that gratitude, that emotion. And then the other great thing about writing it down is then when you're having a day, and you will, where you wake up and you're just like, I am just not feeling it, you can turn back a couple pages and remind yourself of the good things that you have in your life. It gives you the kind of this roller coaster and the ebbs and flows of life. And I know back in the day when I used to be traveling all the time, speaking all over the country, that sometimes I'd get out of the habit of my gratitude journaling. And I noticed that things didn't go as well when I didn't have it. So and a lot of people will say, well, I used to have a gratitude journal, but I got away from it. That's why I like gratitude journals without dates in it, because there's no guilt that way. So if you have a journal that has dates in it, a lot of times what's happened is you miss a couple days and then you either have to go back and fill it in and, make up stuff that happened, or you just like, I forgot it, I just give up on it. When you don't have dates, then there's no guilt that surrounds it. So go ahead and put in the chat if you have some kind of gratitude practice, whether you do gratitude journaling, any type of practice that you do. The morning journal is the first one, and I'm just going to check the chat. Okay, so we see, all right. Being a Tigger versus an Eeyore. That is so funny. Oh, and thank you for Dina for posting the Greater Good Science Center, Robert Emmons. And, besides his background being at the Greater Good Science Center on that link, you will find tons of research and information on gratitude. So good for you. So gratitude journal, gratitude quote, morning journal, thinking about them before bed, which actually is going to lead nicely into my second one, which is the wins journal. This is writing down 5 good things that happen during the day right before you go to bed at night. The other thing that comes out in research is that people who have a gratitude practice are awake less time before they fall asleep, they sleep more soundly, and they awaken more refreshed. So what's the moral of that story? Count your blessings, not sheep. Also, when it comes to what's going on right now, and I really hope that there's not anybody from the media who's going to be offended by this statement, but if you are watching the evening news right before you go to bed, please just stop. With everything that's going on in the world right now, when bad things happen, people will tell you. But to have this constant barrage of bad news, particularly watching the news before you go to bed, it's not good practice. And so I would just encourage you that the very last thought before you go to sleep at night is that gratitude, is that wins journal. And the last one, the ABCs that you see there, that's a practice I call the ABCs of gratitude. And what that is you take a random letter in the alphabet tonight. So maybe tonight I'll start with C. I'm so grateful for the people that came to my program for Cleveland State. D, I'm grateful for my dad. E, I'm grateful for everyone that showed up today. It's your alphabet. Use it as you will. So if you start late in the alphabet and you get to the letter X, no, you don't have to be grateful for your xylophone. I mean, if you have kids or grandkids that have a Fisher-Price xylophone, chances are you're not really grateful for it. But on the other hand, you can be grateful for the exhilarating time that you had, the exciting time. Most of the time you will get through 5 or 6 letters of the alphabet and you'll be sound asleep. There are going to be some nights that you're going to go through the alphabet, twice. But getting into the habit of looking at those things that are good in our lives and making that a habit. And if you mess up, if you get into a dark place where you're just not having it, you're going through some struggles, forgive yourself and get back into the habit. This is something we can always pick up. The nice thing about gratitude is that it's easy to do. It's also really easy not to do and to get out of the habit. Let's see. So sharing, okay, I like that. Susie writing, sharing gratitude at dinner with my partner. You know, when you're sharing this with people, it really strengthens the relationships. If you have kids, and particularly now, since we're having a lot more dinners together than we ever did before, of really starting that, you know, tell me one good thing that you're grateful for. Tell me one good thing that happened today. Getting your kids in the habit of being grateful for things. And, you know, sometimes it's just like, I'm grateful that it's a sunny day, you know, so it doesn't have to always be these big things. Oh, I won the lottery. Oh, I just got a fantastic job, whatever it is. But it's just being conscious of the little things that are going on. So those are the three main practices that help when it comes to the self. The 30-day gratitude challenge, and this might be a writer downer for you. There are 5 ways that you can express appreciation. And for the next 30 days, challenge yourself and of one or all of these 5 ways. Number 1 is the gratitude journal. And we just talked about that. So writing down 5 things that you're grateful for. If you do that, you're off the hook for the day. The second one, to verbally express appreciation to people and look for people who aren't thanked very often. You know, maybe you're at the mile-long drive-through at Starbucks or Chick-fil-A, and you have that harried person at the door or at the window handing you your order. Thank them. You know, just smile, say thank you, recognize them, because other than that, they are dealing with a whole line full of really grouchy people. The third and the fourth is to write a letter of appreciation or write a thank you note. The difference in the world, according to Lisa Ryan, is that a thank you note is thank you for something. Thank you for the gift. Thank you for your time. Thank you for dinner. The letter of appreciation is thank you because I just want to let you know how important you are to me. I just want to let you know how much I appreciate having you in my life. That is one of the best activities that you can do. Because when you tell someone you appreciate them, you create a beautiful memory. But when you write it down, you create a treasure. And especially if you think about writing that letter of appreciation, one of the things that you'll find in Dr. Emmons' research is the person who writes the letter gets just as much or more benefit from writing it than the recipient gets from receiving it. So both parties benefit from that. And then the 5th way is to meditate or reflect on the power of gratitude. So in one of those 5 ways, for the next 30 days, challenge yourself. Now, in the past, I have done official 30-day challenges, 30-day gratitude challenges. And the funniest thing is at the end of the challenge, when people write to me, they're like, oh, Lisa, you know, I really enjoyed the 30-day challenge and I'm so sorry that it's over. I'm like, part of my evil plan is that you'll continue doing the gratitudes. So what that 30 days does is it gets you into the habit of writing down your gratitudes. But like for me, it's been 11 years and I'm still writing them down, and it makes such a huge difference. And the other thing that I can share with you, well, 2 things. Number 1, my husband does not keep a gratitude journal. Okay, he's an accountant, not his thing. But because I kept a journal, I noticed the difference in our relationship. We are much more thankful to each other. And we've just celebrated, well, back in April, 24 years of marriage. So it strengthens relationships. The other thing that I hear people say is, you know, they'll come back to me and they'll say, Lisa, I don't really need this, but I have this grouchy cousin. She really needs this. I should tell her to do this. Okay, so you have a grouchy cousin. Let's just call her Mary. And instead of saying, Mary, I went to this really awesome program and I think that you should keep a gratitude journal. No, that the percentage chance of that working is like 0. Instead, Mary, I just went to this amazing program. Lisa talked about keeping your gratitudes. Why don't we do that together? Why don't we share something every day that we're grateful for? And just kind of keep that going, or open up a Facebook thread like my friends and I did. Because not only is it going to, excuse me, I get all excited about this stuff. Not only is it going to help in your relationship with Mary, but it's also going to help her. So that is your 30-day challenge. So right now in the chat, what I'd like you to do is to share one thing. Share one thing that you are grateful for. And I'm going to leave that up so I can also go back and read the chat. Oh, that's funny, Heather. Telling someone to make a positive importance. No, share one thing you're grateful for. 2020. You know what? We have had a lot of lessons, a lot of good. I've had a job throughout the pandemic, family's health, tea and a bagel, her children. The pandemic has brought me closer to some family members, good health, children, and a new grandbaby, family. These are the times when we can go and really focus. One of the things that we used to complain about most of the time is, I don't have time for that. I don't have time to spend with my loved ones. And we've been given this gift of time. So the fact that we realize that, 55 Christmas cards out, yay, both children started working full time. So it's just these little things, and that's as easy as a gratitude practice is. Just take the time, give yourself the gift of that 1 to 2 minutes a day to write down the things that you're grateful for. So the H is for health. I'm going to put this quote up there. Let you read that. Because that is pretty darn true, isn't it? And especially now when we're seeing people, again, I've had all 3 of my brother-in-laws, 2 of my sister-in-laws, several of my friends coming down with COVID. And these are healthy people. We take our health for granted until we don't have it. So how can gratitude help us? First of all, Heart Math, which is in California, what Heart Math does is they look at our emotions and its impact on our physical being. So one research study that they did is they compared frustration and appreciation and its impact on the heart. So I'll bring up the chart. And if you look at the top, and it looks kind of like a lie detector test, doesn't it? So when they put these people through frustration, anxiety, stress, that is how your heart beats. But when they took that same group of people, hooked them up to monitors, and put them through a period of appreciation, gratitude, love, compassion, you can see it's a much more smooth process. So all those people that you are letting live rent-free inside your head, they're killing you. Find some kind of gratitude practice. Take that troublesome person that you work with and find one thing to be grateful for about them. Lisa, there ain't nothing good about that person. Okay, find one good thing about that person. Okay, she wore really cute shoes on our Zoom call. Yeah, I was thinking she wore really cute shoes, but now since we're all on Zoom, okay, maybe she'd have to show that, whatever. But when we can start to find good things about others, it also changes our energy towards them. So the second study that I really liked, also by Heart Math, is they took a look at anger and compassion and its impact on the immune system. So again, we think about our immune system and how important that is to us right now. Well, This is probably going to be your biggest takeaway from the program today. Remember this, for every 5 minutes you spend in anger, you actually reduce the effectiveness of your immune system for 6 hours. I'll let that settle in for a minute. 6 hours. Those same 5 minutes spent in compassion, however, actually elevate the performance of your immune system for those same 6 hours. So when we look for ways to find the good, and we'll go back to that gratitude journal, when you start to rewire your brain, when you start to look at things differently, sometimes at the beginning, forcing yourself to say, okay, well, what can I find that's good in this situation? And choosing positive emotions. And it's also stress. You know, if you think about when you're frustrated, when you're angry, when you're stressed out, what that is doing to you and to your immune system. And there's something that you can do, and I'll see if you can guess it in the chat there. There's something you can do that will take you out of the stress response. The hint is you are doing it all day long, 24/7. And if you're not doing it, you are in deep, deep doo-doo. So what do you think is that one? There you go. I have my people here. Yes, it is the breath. It is breathing. There are lots of breathing meditations. The one that I like is just called 4-7-8. And it looks like this. You breathe in for 4, hold for 7, and release for 8. When you do that 5 times, you're physically taking yourself out of the stress response. The cool thing about breathing is you have to do it anyway, so why not look for ways to make it work for you? So again, when it comes to our health, we think about how our heart beats when we are angry or frustrated. We think about that anger and compassion and choosing positive emotions. And when all else fails, to get into that breath, to give ourselves the gift of breath. The next is our relationship with others. So we've all heard the saying, if you can't say anything nice, don't say anything at all. The Lisa Ryan addendum, of course, is, but if you can say something nice, do. Especially during these the holiday seasons where, again, we're used to saying it, but a lot of times we assume that people know how we feel about them. So looking for ways to connect with people. You know, if you're working in an office, the Post-it note is one of your greatest gifts when it comes to giving somebody that tangible evidence, whether it be just a smiley face on a piece of paper, the great job, you know, handing somebody tangible evidence of a job well done. Doing this for your spouse, your significant other, your kids. You know, back in the day, well, actually, Scott, my husband, just got called back to work after being on furlough for 9 months. So that was our biggest Christmas gift. But what I was doing is I would leave notes for Scott in his lunch. And this was started a couple of years ago. The first one was like, you know, to the world's most amazing husband from the world's most fabulous wife, you know, something along those lines. And Scott put it on his wall, took a picture of it, and texted it to me. So again, I think that's one of the things that contributes to 24 great years of marriage with him. It's just looking for those connections of reaching out to people via text, you know, on a daily basis, keeping in touch with people. At one of my programs, I had this idea of having everybody to bring out their phone and, you know, think about that person that needs to hear from you and send them a note, you know, thinking about you, I love you, miss you, can't wait to see you, whatever, click send, see what happened. Well, at the break, this woman came up to me and she's like, oh, Lisa, I sent a note to my husband and look what he sent me back. And it was, oh, honey, thank you so much. I love you. It was exactly what I needed to hear from you today. I'm having a bad day, whatever. It was just this beautiful text back and forth. And then a guy came up to me and he showed me, he had sent the text to one of his cousins. And his cousin texted him back and said, are you at one of those programs where they're making you do activities? So totally got busted. But on the other hand, it's just reaching out to people. One of my favorite books when it comes there, I have that up there, is The 5 Love Languages. So if you're familiar with the 5 love languages, go ahead and put that in the chat. Yes, I am, or yes. If you're not familiar with it, the Cliff Notes version is that there are good. I love yeses with exclamation points because it's such an important way to connect with people. For those of you not familiar with it, the Cliff Notes version is that we are wired for our love language in 5 different ways. So words of affirmation, physical touch, acts of service, quality time, and gifts. Now, at the beginning of a relationship, we're all over it because we're saying words of affirmation, we're physically touching and giving gifts and spending quality time and doing acts of service. And then what happens over time in that relationship is we revert to whatever our love language is. So maybe you are a high acts of service person. So for your significant other, you're taking the kids to, you're taking the trash out and cooking dinner and taking kids all over the place because you're trying to show your love with acts of service. But maybe your significant other, their love language is quality time. And all they want to do is sit on the couch and hold hands with you. So we all have little parts of that, but there's one that dominates. And even when it comes to the golden rule, which says do unto others as you would have done unto you, if we think about do unto others as they would have done unto them, treat other people the way they want to be acknowledged, appreciated. That's how we make those connections. So feel comfortable sharing. Think in your head right now, who do I need to connect with today? And when you ask that question, and it can be a phone call, it can be a text, it can be writing them a thank you note of appreciation, whatever it is, but go ahead and if you feel comfortable, share that in the chat. Who are you committing to connect with today? Boyfriend, grandma, my sister. Awesome. Good. And that's the thing. We say it loud, we say it proud, you put it in there, and now you've put it in your subconscious mind, and I know that you're going to do it. So when it comes to, this is probably not a phrase that we think about very often as far as the gifts of COVID. So think about your workplace right now, or if you're a student at CSU, in school, what are some of the things that you're doing now that you wouldn't be doing if it had not been for COVID? So for me, for example, usually I'm on planes traveling all over the place. I'm doing all kinds of virtual programs and virtual trainings and consulting. Recently, I was actually an avatar at a virtual program, which means I could walk through the grounds. And then I learned that my avatar could dance. So we had a whole dance party. It was very fun. But the technology that's there, so working from home, wearing a mask, a new career path came out. A lot of the technology has changed. Right before COVID started, I was hired to work with a local minister to help him with his presentation skills, to become more dynamic from the pulpit. And then COVID happened. And of course, not only was church shut down, but we weren't able to get together. So we started doing our training on Zoom, and then they started doing their services on Facebook Live. If I would have told this minister back in January, I know what you should do is you should do your services on Facebook Live because that's going to give more people access to you and you're going to expand the congregation, he would have said, Lisa, you're crazy. We have an elderly congregation. They're not into Facebook. They're not going to do it. It's not going to work. And yet now, instead of having 50 people in the congregation in the church, he has 350 people tuning in from all over the country. So we look at some of these different gifts. Okay, so working from home, working on my kids' education, college, having time for self-care. So there are lots of gifts. This is probably my biggest one. And it started small with our family Zoom calls. It started, first of all, in April when I told my mother we should do a family Zoom. And my mother said, I don't know anything about that. I'm not going to do that. And instead of letting her off the hook and just doing FaceTime like I was used to, I said, no, you're going to learn Zoom. So the first one was me, my mom, and my stepsister on a Zoom call. And then after that, my sister came, and then my brother. And little by little it grew to we invited our international family. We've been doing Zoom calls now twice a week, Wednesday nights and Saturdays. Saturday is international Zoom. So on the call, on one of our largest calls, we had 19 people on the call represented from not only all of these different states, but also England, Barbados, Trinidad, and Canada. So if you think about the time zone from England being 5 hours ahead and California being 3 hours behind, it's been really interesting with the time zones. But the other cool thing that's come out of it is my niece, Brittany. Let's see if Brittany is in there. She is, yes, she's on the white background here. Brittany actually announced her pregnancy on Zoom. At the beginning, the baby was pre-COVID. We had a Zoom baby shower for her. And while we were on, Isla came 12 days late because she wanted to delay coming into 2020 as long as she could. But we were on our Wednesday night family Zoom call when we got the text from Brittany that she was in the hospital in labor. So we went full circle, and little Isla came into the world October 22nd. And she's been on many Zoom calls since then. But some of the other things, I do have a gift for you. This is my very first book and still my baby, The Upside of Downtimes, Discovering the Power of Gratitude. And what this book does is this takes you through the 4 steps that we're talking about. So self-health, others, and wealth. There's stories, there's activities in there. I will send you the PDF of that book. All you have to do is text the word engage to 66866. Without the quotes. What'll happen when you text the word engage is you will get an email or a text back from me that says to give me your first name and email address. And the reason why I ask for the first name is because if your name is michelle.smith@abc.com, it's really easy to say, hi, Michelle. But if your email address is, hotbikerdude@gmail, I don't really want to go there. So, and that's what you'll get. You will get the Upside of Down Times. You'll also get my Gratitude Thought of the Week, which is a short inspirational message that seems to show up in your inbox every Thursday exactly when you need it. And you can unsubscribe at any time. So when it comes to quickly, because I really wanted to focus on you, but how can we bring these ideas into the workplace? Number one, if you are in management, be transparent. Let your employees know what's going on. This is not the time to be all that in a bag of chips. This is not this is the time to share your ideas, to ask ideas. How are you dealing with your kids being in school? How are you dealing with this? What, tech apps, hacks have you found out? But sharing, being transparent when it comes to the people that work with. Show empathy. We saw at the beginning when we went through all the emotions, the 1 to 6 scale, that there are people that are still hurting and they're still angry and they're still afraid. So making sure that you're expressing empathy and not just asking about the work. Did you get your work done? How's your work going? But how are you doing personally? What can we do to help you? What can we do to support you? Showing that level of empathy. Next, be tactical. There's lots that we're learning when we went through that, of the technologies that we're learning, of the things that we're doing differently now than we've ever done before, the lessons that we've learned. What can you use going forward that, again, we shared some of those things that you're doing now because of Zoom, because of COVID, that you weren't doing before COVID. So looking at how you can take what you're learning and using that tactically going forward. And next is to acknowledge excellence. Take the time, and this is not only acknowledging the excellence of your team members if you're a manager, but reaching out to, thinking about who needs to hear from me, acknowledging people for the work they do, for the contribution, for the difference that they're making in your life. Oh, I can see can you tell the sun just came out? That is kind of funny. All of a sudden I have lines all over my face. Anyway, but making sure that you're taking the time to acknowledge excellence and to let people know how much you appreciate them. So I'd like to find out from you one thing. Go ahead and in the chat, one thing you're going to do as a result of spending your time with us in this hour today on this. Is it going to be something for yourself? Starting a gratitude practice, a wins journal, the ABCs of gratitude? Is it going to come to the health benefits that you are going to really focus on the breath or meditation or choosing positive emotions? Start a gratitude journal, remember to breathe, letters of appreciation, read my book, woohoo! Commit to morning and evening journal, letters of appreciation, wins journal, utilize the ABCs of gratitude. I will tell you what, that ABCs of gratitude is a miracle drug-free way to fall asleep. Thank you notes. When it comes to thank you notes, one cool thing to do, one of my clients did, is she would every month buy just a sheet of stamps at the post office. And her goal was by the end of the month to have written enough thank you notes to use all of those stamps. So share the information with your sister. I know you're going to be getting the recording of this, so feel free to share it with anybody you want. And remember too, you were on this call, so you're seeing it from a little bit different perspective from people who weren't on the call. So, look for a way to connect with that person. Let's do this together. Let's come up with something that we can do together. What else do we have? Sent a thank you note for a second scholarship, for physical letters, meditation. I will tell you what, I use the Calm app, which is nice because there's the daily Calm, which is just 10 minutes. We can all do 10 minutes of something. Oh, there you go. Liveinspired.com has a cool keep connected stationery set. Calm, I know, I get you. But these are all things that, again, you say it loud, you say it proud, you write it down, the little things that you can do to commit to doing that. Again, if you didn't get it the first time, you'll text the word engage to 66866 to get my book. And again, that's just the PDF, and you'll also get gratitude thought of the week. So go ahead, if you haven't done that, do that now. And I'd love to stay in touch with you. Here are all my social media. And go ahead, we have about 5 minutes left. If there are any questions at all that you have, go ahead and put those in the chat. I am more than happy to answer them. And I'm just going to take a quick scroll here through the chat to see if there's anything else. Okay. Oh, I like that. I'm not doing as much. I know I have found that I am not doing a lot of shopping for myself either. Number one, I'm not going anywhere, saving me money that way. Able to start a career that was the right fit for me. So yeah, you guys, I really thank you for being such a nice participative audience when it comes to sharing things. Let's see, send the PowerPoint slides. Yeah, I will send those to Elizabeth in a PDF form. She can send those out. Oh, thank you so much for your kind words. Okay, how can I reduce the negative effects social media has on my mood and attitude? Okay, this one's gonna hurt. Get off Facebook. When you minimize the amount of time that you spend on social media, we have to take responsibility for what we expose ourselves to. And, sometimes when it comes to social media, either you have all the the derisiveness that we've been going through the last couple months with the election, or the people whining about this, complaining about this, or the really annoying people that are posting, my life is perfect and everything's great. And then we feel jealous and mad and everything because, our lives are falling apart. So sometimes when we just step away from social media, that is the best gift that we can do to ourselves. And doing things like meditation. Give yourself the gift of time, reading good books. I actually just invested, and I'm going to be starting my second one. Do you know that they make adult paint by numbers? I actually painted Starry Night by Van Gogh. And now I have another, I think it's a Monet painting that I just got. Elizabeth, do you see any, the chat is really going fast. Were there any other questions that I missed?
I think
Oh, hey, Leanne, I will say hi to Scott.
Yeah, there's a lot of notes to you, thanking you.
That's great. Okay.
Which is very nice. A lot of people agreeing with you that less time on Facebook and Twitter is helpful.
It's
someone appreciating that you sent the Upside of Down Times to them years ago, and it was a great help to them.
Good. Yeah, like I said, there's you'll get a lot of the stories in there, and I also put activities, but that was a book that I had on my mind for about 4 years, and I wasn't sure how it was going to show up or what form it was going to take. And then one day the book just showed up. I mean, it literally showed up and started pouring out of me, so that it was about 6 weeks of 10-hour days of that book coming out. So even though it's my first book, it was published in 2012, it's still my very favorite book out of the 10 that I've written. So thank you for being a reader. I know that there's probably lots of you on here that were also on my gratitude thought of the week list. Again, it's something that it doesn't take a lot of time. It's not a newsletter. It's basically just a short story of what's going on. If there's a quote, a story, a lesson, and an action. And it's real time. When I first started doing it, it was kind of evergreen, and that I wanted to keep it so that it was, it could be used at any time. But now, since 2011, it's come out every single week since 2011. My subscribers have gone with me through my niece and nephew being born as preemies, my other great niece being born with cancer, my dad. I mean, it's real. So, and I'm also just a reply away. So I get lots of nice comments from that. So Elizabeth, any other questions or anything that you see? We're down to our last.
Yeah, it looks like it's all, just people jumping in to say thank you. And so I will take that opportunity to say thank you, Lisa. This was wonderful. And I know I'm going to start a gratitude journal, and it sounds like a lot of other people are too, because I could definitely use that in my life and with the people that I deal with. So
and
thank you.
You're welcome. And with the gratitude journal, like I said, if you get out of the habit, just start up again. Always start up. It doesn't matter how long you've been away from it. So anyway, thank you.
I like the note dates idea, because yes, I'm totally that person who, in the daily sketchbooks in college would be like catching up, a week later. So I liked that tip too. But I want to thank everybody else too for coming today and spending this hour with us. I hope it was helpful for you as it was for me. Thank you again, Lisa, and everybody, please be sure to check csualumni.com for more events coming up, and we hope to see you all back.
Bye. Merry Christmas.
Happy Tuesday. Bye, everybody.
Bye.
We'll be following up with an email with all those things we told you we'd send you.
Perfect.
Great. Thank you, everybody.